I'm ready.
Welcome you to the Liam and Lucas Bible Podcast. And as it gets close to Thanksgiving, today we're thinking about ingratitude and how we need to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, seeing as how Thanksgiving is coming around, and we are going to be, over the span of 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about the different ways of, we're going to be talking about thankfulness and ungratefulness. And this week we're going to be talking about ungratefulness. So, the main thing I found about ungratefulness was the Israelites' time in the wilderness. The whole story is just all about how they're just unselfish, ungrateful for everything God's done for them, keep on demanding more, and I just felt like that was a perfect representation of ungratefulness. So it says in Romans 1:21 that, for although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in overthinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. So that's what I felt like was a really good summary of everything the Israelites did in the wilderness. Their hearts were hard. They did not help. They did not try to understand what God had given them. They went back and forth between, oh yes, we believe God, well, and then, well, maybe we should make idols and start worshiping them. So it all starts off with them in their life. They start off in Egypt as slaves. They are then saved by God, who, through Moses, they were saved and brought up out of slavery. So after that, they are wandering through the wilderness, and they begin to hunger, as they have not had food since Egypt. Now, of course, it's understandable for them to be craving hunger, seeing as they haven't eaten anything in probably a couple days. Now, in the way my version of Bible, it says that they had asked Moses for food. They had demanded it of him, and how over time they'd become prideful and selfish. Now, seeing as how they were reacting, they probably shouldn't have deserved food at that level in which God was going to give them. But God gave it to them, seeing as they were the sons of the God's people. Now, they continue by going on by just trying to guilt God into giving them what they want, and saying, oh, but we've been walking for days, we will die of hunger, our children will starve, or die of thirst, and they're just trying to basically guilt God into giving them what they want. Next, they asked for water, but it says they quarreled with Moses for it. They used the same guilt, and Moses felt as if he was going to be overthrown, and then they'll just become evil people at heart. Moses cries out to God, asking to give them water so that he will not be stoned. Now, and then God gives them the water, in which they return to God for a couple days or weeks at most. Next is the big overall part, in which they are very much ungrateful. Next, Moses goes up onto the mountain, and God gives him the 10 Commandments. Naturally, the irrational Israelites took this opportunity to just do whatever they want and do unholy actions, which they started off with by creating idols, by melting the gold and then turning it into a statue of a cow, I believe it was, and they started worshiping it. Now, Moses had been up on the mountain for quite some time, and coming down, he saw all the evil practices they had been doing, and was hurt most of all when he found out Moses' brother was in charge of it all, the head of it. So Moses returned, smashed the tablets, and was furious at them for abandoning God and doing such unholy actions. This is just a short summary of all the Israelites had done throughout all their life in the wilderness for 40 years. They continued to abandon God, then return to Him and abandon Him, and then ultimately they lost the ability to go to the Promised Land. They are just the pinnacle of irrational and unholy and just not thankful for anything God has ever done for them. They keep on wanting more, they keep on demanding more, and just are never thankful for what God's given them. And that's what I feel like is what I see is one of the major topics in ungratefulness in the Bible.
All right. So, concerning the topic of ingratitude, I was thinking, why do we commit that sin? Why do we commit the sin of ingratitude? And I feel like you can trace it back to pride. It's when you forget all the blessings you have and you say, okay, God, I see everything you've given me, but it's not enough. I want that or this. Or sometimes we don't even acknowledge anything that God has given us. And Liam actually said, he chose a verse I also chose, which is Romans 1:21, because that when they knew God, they glorified Him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. So it's, as it says, it's vanity to be ungrateful to God, because God deserves the glory. He gave us everything. He made everything, and yet we don't thank Him for everything that He's given us. And another way ungratefulness creeps into our lives is during trials, which a great trial was the Israelites in the wilderness, like Liam was talking about. And when we're in trials, it's easy for us to lose sight of what God has given us, or what He's going to give us, or everything that we have in the presence and Jesus right there with us. So I wanted to read Exodus chapter 15. This is right after the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, and the Red Sea was split apart. Yeah, verses 22 through 27. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. And when they came to Marah, they could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Marah. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? And he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, which when he had cast into the waters were made sweet. There he made for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them, and said, If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear unto his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. And when they came to Elim, where were 12 wells of water, and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there by the waters. So there they were right after the parting of the Red Sea and the 10 plagues that God put against Pharaoh. All these miracles that He did for them. He saved them from slavery and from the satanic kingdom of Egypt that worshiped strange false gods. God saved them out of all of this, and they go 3 days into a trial, and they're already complaining against God. And you see in verse 24, it says, the people murmured against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? It said that they murmured against Moses, not to him or towards him. This was these were ill feelings that they were harboring against Moses. But really, it was God, because it was God that was doing all of this for them, not Moses. So they're angry with God. They're ungrateful for the freedom that He's given them and the freedom to worship Him. So at that point, you have to ask, God saved them from a demonic kingdom so that they could worship Him freely, and yet they're complaining. It makes you wonder what they're even grateful for. What are they going to be grateful for now? Are they going to be grateful to God, or are they going to be grateful to Egypt? And so God gives them the sweet water, and they have it. But as you see, very soon after, they go to Elim, where there were 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees, where there was sweet water, and if the Israelites had trusted in God, they would have come there. But because they murmured against Moses, because they murmured against God, because they were ungrateful, they didn't appreciate what God had given them. So I want to read a couple more verses. This is pertaining to pride again. I want to read James chapter 4. Here it is. Yeah. Verses 6 through 10. God, I'll start halfway through. Wherefore he says, God resisteth the proud, but giveth grace unto the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. Be afflicted, and mourn, and weep. Let your laughter be turned to mourning, and your joy to heaviness. Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up. So when we humble ourselves to God, he lifts us up, and when we're humble towards God, we see what he's given us, and we lose that ingratitude. And the last verse I want to mention here is Psalm 95, verse 2. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with psalms. So when you see how you've been ungrateful to God and you want to repent of it, ask God to forgive you and to give him the joy of his salvation and his gifts unto us. So, yeah.
It's really good. One point you brought up that I was really interested in was you had said that you were saying that how they might be more grateful towards Pharaoh with compared to God. You had mentioned that earlier. That just really got me. That just really hit me, and I'm just thinking that it's true that throughout all the book of Exodus, they're just saying how back in Egypt we had all this food and all this stuff, and it's starting to sound like they wish they were back in Egypt instead of with God on their way to the promised land.
Yeah, because this was God that saved them, and if they weren't thankful to God, what were they going to be thankful for at that point? What was the whole point of them being out there? What would they even think? And that's what I thought of when I read that. So.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.